Blizzard has had enough, and so have we. Facing reality. Oh, what is the reality? I mean, we know about the, all the changes to the UI, changes to weak auras and everything. There's kind of a war against weak auras right now going on from Blizzard HQ. Let's see what Bellular has to say about what Blizzard has had enough of.
Welcome back, everyone. Today's news is absolutely goddamn huge because Blizzard just committed to replacing combat add-ons in WoW. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Now, Ian doesn't say it outright, but over the course of this 45-minute WoWcast with Dratnos and Max, he makes it very clear indeed. They kind of don't want you using combat add-ons. At least they don't want you to feel like you need them. In fact...
Am I wrong to say that, I have to rewatch the whole thing to find out, but didn't Ian basically say that they were going to limit weak aura's ability to get data from the game? I'm pretty sure he did say that, and there were people like commenting in my video saying Ian didn't say he's going to delete weak auras, and I was like, what are you talking about? He literally said that they were going to limit weak aura's ability to extract data from the game. That means that weak auras are going to become completely useless. Now, you're always wrong, Sam. Maybe I am. Just watch the video, okay. I'm not stalling, but that's what I thought. I'm pretty sure that he said that. I highly doubt that Blizzard's going to add all this shit into the game and not basically limit it weak auras. The whole point behind the video was that they were having to create boss fights in certain ways because weak auras were doing too much. They're gonna limit it.
In the future, they may even kill them. That means weak auras, deadly boss mods, details, and it also
They're gonna kill them.
Hikili and GSE. But before they pull the trigger, they know they need to make sure that, when they pull it, they won't miss. And in patch 11.1.7, they're starting the process in a fairly major way. Coming in the patch, which we expect to be late June, there's a new feature called Rotation Assist. And it does one very simple thing. It highlights the next button that you should press on your bars. Now, Ian actually said that this will be manually updated based on the latest theory crafting, and that it will even detect the number of targets nearby, and it will also consider your selected talents. Which is wild, and it basically is Hikili completely dealt with as a thing. But they're actually killing two birds with one stone here. This also has a single button assistant with it. I've seen a lot of the reactions to this. Really, it's fairly interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Hikili, look, I don't personally use it, but that doesn't mean a lot of people don't use it. In fact, if you look at the freaking add-on, it's got on right now on CurseForge 56.4 million downloads. I think it's safe to assume that, yes, the majority of WoW players are already using this rotation helper. So Blizzard adding this into the game, some people were like, oh, they're noobifying the game or whatever by adding it. No, they're not. The fucking people are already using this shit. They're just literally putting something that people are already using as an add-on into the game, which, by the way, puts less pressure on your CPU, which is great. The less add-ons you have in the game running with the game, the better it is for your computer to run the game. And then second, it just creates less of that desire to have to go download an add-on. A new player can just join the game and everything. Imagine this. Everything they need to play the game is already in the game. A fantastic thing. Yeah, this is good.
Accessibility feature. I think it's kind of sick. So it does exactly what it basically sounds like. When 11.1.7 drops in, you'll be able to play WoW as a DPS with just one button. Yes, cue all the memes. This one keybind button will automatically become the next recommended ability in your rotation, but there is a cost. There always must be a cost, and in this case, it will add 0.03 seconds to your global cooldown. Now, that is about 10 to 20% slower depending on your spec. And
it's not going to be viable to raid this way. People were freaking the fuck out. It's not going to be a thing. This is going to be something that people use to quest, to go brain dead in content around, to go hunt down an old mount or something. This is not going to be something that you can join heroic raid and click one button to do. Okay, it's not going to happen. Everyone was freaking the fuck out, and Blizzard made it clear that this is not what they want to have. They don't want this to become the way to play the game. This is literally for the people who are playing at the very bottom, the most casual Andes around there, even more casual than Greg from accounting. I mean, this is literally somebody who just wants to listen to music from WoW while they run around and kill boars in Elwyn Forest. Okay? And by the way, if it does become something that is viable, in fact, for raiding, Blizzard will just increase the cooldown on it. And it'll make it even worse. They're not going to allow this to be a way to raid. So everyone needs to calm the fuck down.
Of course, the amount of haste your character has. That's fairly substantial.
Basically
Look, it is a absolutely ginormous nerf compared to doing it manually. And through the lens of killing add-ons, it completely kills the need for GSE in most cases, and that means if you use those add-ons, you should be able to uninstall them and essentially never have to think about them again.
Good.
Which is wild.
That's a good thing.
Now, I said that there should be a reason for that. I'll get to that later, because Blizzard actually didn't stop there. The WoWcast was a kind of whopping 45 minutes long, and that was long enough for Ian to go into details, right? How they're actually planning to change the design of World of Warcraft going forward, and most importantly, the why. And yes, weak auras absolutely dominated the conversation here, because it does actually dominate how World of Warcraft is played, and it actually dominates parts of how it's even designed, because they don't make the game in a bubble. So, the cooldown manager and this rotation assistant essentially deal with class weak auras. Blizzard's next problem, though, is a harder one. The raid weak auras that do auto-assignments and things like that basically kind of compute out what you should do. So
And you know, I was feeling, Ian talked about this when it comes to raid design, and I was actually feeling this way, and I thought, oh, maybe I'm just like, you know, being a bit harsh. But I did feel like most recently, raid designs have all been about like soaking and moving, circles here, circles there, soak this circle, get out of that circle. Here's a frontal cone, here's a rear cone. It's been like all of this like ground avoidance shit, and less so of other mechanics. And Ian did say it in the interview. He said like, yeah, they've been using a lot of like soaks and non-soaks and circles and stuff because weak auras can't be used to really get around that stuff. Right? It's unpredictable. It's kind of random in the room. It happens off the cuff during the fight. And so Blizzard's been leaning on that more because any other mechanic, a weak aura is just going to eliminate it. It's not going to matter. The weak aura is just going to do it for you. So if they get rid of weak auras, not only will it be good for your frame rates and everything, it'll lead to more variety in boss fights because Blizzard won't have to design boss fights knowing that weak auras are going to eliminate certain mechanics. So this will be a good thing all around. I don't know anybody who's complaining about this. For what reason? Why are you hanging on to weak auras for? Let them go away.
You don't really have to think about it. And then, of course, the Mythic Plus auras that fill your screen and blast your speakers with alerts so that you don't get killed.
By the way, people who like voice alerts, he did say that they do plan on adding stuff like that to the game.
It was cool seeing Ian actually grapple with all of this. As Ian puts it, and I'll just directly quote the man, well, download this add-on, and this add-on, otherwise you're doing it wrong. That's what Ian said, basically about, well, his own game, and to him it's absolutely a problem. He says that there are certain add-ons that are required, and they don't want to get away from that. So instead, they're going to target every popular add-on. And that means that in the future, they'll be adding damage meters, new nameplates, and even their own in-game DBM.
That'd be awesome. I always said that. I always said if they gave me Plater and some damage charts in the game, I would basically not need add-ons anymore. I'd run this game without add-ons. A DBM obviously would be a nice one too. Yeah, just making things evident in raid would be great, like what you need to kind of do, because it's hard to figure shit out without a DBM or something like that going off. So yeah, if they do these things, I don't need add-ons. I don't.
What Ian calls, quote, timeline
and I'd be happy to delete them.
Now, don't worry, right? Add-ons as a whole are fine. Ian was very careful to repeat that the UI customization part of add-ons, from, say, whatever information that you would like to your quest helpers, those things are all welcome in Blizzard's eyes. Right now, though, their concern is to solve two massive problems that they've identified, and basically, they're trying to save World of Warcraft's future. This is an elephant in the room that for decades, Blizzard have not really dealt with. But, well, it's actually changing now. This is what's called a desire path. Basically, when people find a better option than an intended path, so many people walk it that it then becomes visible, and that turns it into a proper path. And for Blizzard Entertainment, that's been a problem, right? Learning and playing the game is too complicated, it takes too long, or both. So, Hakili was born, right? That's a natural desire path. Except that it's not, just there. It's not like a normal desire path that's obviously visible. No, you've got to go and get it on a website. So Hakili and very obviously weak auras are a desire path that you have to go and download. So imagine there's a path like this, but there's a gate on the desire path that needs you to scan a QR code on your phone or visit a website to open. That would be a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
the real path is too long, but the shortcut needs you to jump through hoops. That is basically why the rotation assist exists.
Well, it becomes even worse if the shortcut is required. And then somebody who's playing without using the shortcut is suddenly way behind everybody else, and they need to go learn how to download add-ons now to figure this shit out properly. That's bad. It's bad game design. That's what it is, and they're trying to fix that.
They basically want to make sure this path, the one that everybody clearly wants to walk, as is, evidenced by their literal actions, that it's visible, that it's clear,
Yeah.
and safe for all players. That's their first goal here.
All
they
good
want to
stuff.
let players just log in and play the game. No downloading and configuring a whole ton of add-ons. No feeling anxious about having the wrong setup. No getting frustrated by an absolutely gigantic wall to climb over to even get started. And while experienced vets like you and me may think add-ons are super simple, take zero time, to a lot of other people, they don't understand it. It just exists as a weird...
I've always said that. It's very bad for new players in the game. For anybody. And I remember I got my cousin in this game, or I got my brother-in-law in this game back in BFA. And what was the first thing I had to explain to him after I told him to install the game? I was like, now you got to install add-ons. Because it's required. If you're playing the game completely without add-ons, you're just not going to be able to play the game in any kind of coherent way, especially when it comes to group content. If you join a 5-man party just for regular, you're going to be lost. People are going to be talking about your damage. You're going to be like, what do you mean damage? How are you guys seeing this shit? Yeah, so you're going to need all these things. And yeah, it creates a barrier to entry, especially for somebody who's never really played an MMO or any kind of game like that. And then you bring them into WoW. And now there's a separate thing they got to download to play the game properly. It's not a good experience.
Cognitive barrier. They don't know how to engage with it. And to them, it's a wall. And that hurts World of Warcraft. And if you don't think this is a problem, listen to the Wowcast yourself and just hear Ian talk. A few times throughout the video, he calls out player numbers and he throws out terms like lots and large majority. Now, obviously, we don't have access to the data that Blizzard has, but we can take a look at CurseForge. Hakili has got 56 million downloads.
Yep, I literally just brought this up, so I clearly don't pre-watch this shit, otherwise I wouldn't have done that. But what about DBM, bigwigs? They said that too, though, Jones. They're going after those too. Yeah, DBM does act like a weak aura. They said they want to make the information that comes from a DBM or a bigwigs available in the game. They don't see a problem with that. Like boss fight timelines, when certain abilities are going to go off, like those kinds of things. They're going to make them available in-game, so you don't need a DBM or a bigwigs anymore.
It's ranked 17th most popular add-on. It's around the same level as SimCraft and Handy Notes. That's a well-worn path.
Yeah.
People want those things. But there's something else that's important to Blizzard as well. So, sticking to the metaphor, the desire path existing proves that the other path, the official path, isn't working for everyone, right? So in other words, the game is too hard to play for many, many people. But that's not something Blizzard can fix overnight, and it may not be something they, even want to fix. For years, since Mists of Pandaria in fact, World of Warcraft has had an identity crisis. Every expansion classes are continually made harder or easier, all trying to find the Goldilocks zone. And now Blizzard are officially admitting that they've given up. Perhaps that they've worked out that they can't find that. And obviously, they can't find the Goldilocks zone because players are not the same. For everyone who clearly loves...
Yeah, this was Asbin's big gripe with this stuff, is he was saying, like, these are problems in the game, and Blizzard's trying to fix them without fixing the problem. They're giving you a rotation helper because rotations are too complicated. Rather than simplifying rotations, they're going to give you something that tells you what to click next. And he's not wrong about that. But do people really want a 3-button rotation? I know those exist, but when I say 3-button rotation, like to simplify the game to that level, do you really want the elimination of a bunch of abilities? Maybe you do. The game might be overcomplicated. It's a 20-year-old game. There's probably a lot of button bloat going on for sure. But I still think Blizzard's kind of taken the right route here. That people clearly are fine playing the game with these add-ons, so why not put them in the game? Now, Jones, you're saying just deploy. That you think add-ons, people who make add-ons, Brad's saying so dumb because people who are add-on developers do a better job than Blizzard. Well, they do a better job in identifying the issue. That's for sure. Because they're obviously the people who are making the add-ons are playing the game. Probably a lot more than the Blizzard employees are. So they've clearly identified the pain points and they've created add-ons to solve them. So if you're talking about finding the issues, yeah, they're better. But I still think Blizzard's going to do at least a better job in the fact that it's integrated into the game. So it's going to be less costly on your PC. You got to remember, running add-ons is a separate program from the game. You're installing it onto the game, so you're adding more load onto your PC. So if you have this shit integrated into the game, it's going to be a smoother game. It's going to run better. That's the hope. We've seen patches break, so yeah, I could be wrong. But that's at least the positive that should come out of this.
making talent builds and going in real deep, there are a dozen who would rather just log in and press the damn button that glows. We know that because it's how they play the game. So instead of stressing out trying to design a game,
you know what would be personally to me what I think Blizzard should do? Hire the guys who made the add-ons. You like Heckley? Go find the guy who made it and hire him. He clearly knows the back-end code to get this shit to work properly. I don't disagree with you that some of these add-on developers, they're really talented. Go hire the DBM guys. Go hire the guy who made the damage meters. Just go hire them. That's to me, that would be the best way. Because then obviously you're going to have the brain behind the operations who was running it the whole time now integrated into your game, and they can integrate their add-on into the game. It'd be perfect. I think that's the way they should do it. Is it the way they're going to do it? Probably not.
And that works for absolutely everybody. So, you make it easier and more approachable, but now the hardcore players are pissed off. Well, now they can kind of just relax, and they can make the class gameplay fun for people who want the mastery, while people who don't want the mastery can use this other official path instead. And that goes double for the single button assistant. By Ian's own admission, it is an accessibility feature. I definitely want you to think about that first. Imagine, look, for whatever reason that it's hard for you to use a keyboard, right? That can range from, I don't know, a birth thing, an IED, anything. Well, the ability to play regular World of Warcraft like this could in a way be kind of life-changing, especially if that's your main hobby. I think that's an amazing thing. It's great Blizzard are taking that seriously. So yes, it's an accessibility feature, but it's also there for people who really, really simply do not care about what buttons they press. Now, the penalty in terms of your global cooldown is strong enough that you'll never want to use this in any hard content, right? It just won't be used in that hard content. But I'll be honest, it still is going to be a huge buff for anyone who just is randomly smashing buttons. The people who end up getting like a 1%.
That's who it's an improvement for. That's what I was saying. It's for literally the floor, like the most basic players of the game. This is not going to be a way to play the game viably in any way.
Of our parse.
And if it ever becomes a way to play the game viably, Blizzard's going to nerf it. They're going to make the cooldown on it longer. So it's already like a 20% loss in terms of efficiency. If it becomes more efficient than basic raiders, Blizzard's going to nerf it. They don't want this. They already said they don't want this to be the way people raid. So the whole backlash against it and the fucking people losing their minds are, oh my God, everyone's going to join raid and click one button. It's never going to happen.
Somehow. That's, actually
the Start-Samiccus of the world, yeah.
Because if those people are doing more damage, everyone's going to have a better time. So in a way, it's kind of genius. It's part accessibility feature, part brilliant shortcut to keep the skill floor low while removing the usual problems that causes. Bringing down the skill ceiling and pissing off your most core dedicated players. So I suppose your LFR runs just got at least, I don't know, twice as fast. There's a second reason then, and it's what Max and Dratno spent most of the episode talking about, and that is raid design. So, the arms race between add-on developers and WoW's raid designers has hit a point where everyone is tired of it. Ian said their goal is disarmament instead of escalation. So, the way every boss has a billion swirlies now? Well, it turns out that's not because Blizzard hates us, and it's not because they love swirlies. It's because weak auras end up handling almost everything else in big raids.
That's exactly what I was saying. Blizzard tried the arms race against weak auras. We got Sepulchre of the first ones out of that. One of the hardest raids ever to probably exist. I mean, we had Halandris fucking eliminating mythic raiders as the fourth boss in the raid. People were stuck for days on that thing. And then you got the jailer fight wasn't bad, but the Anduin fight, like 36 phases to that shit, all kinds of DPS checks and things going down, all this crazy, complicated shit. And Blizzard did this. The Dreadlords fight. Right? Remember, we had to find the Dreadlord, and we had to download 10 add-ons to freaking be able to do that shit properly. It was an escalation. That's what it was. Blizzard tried to create an overcomplicated raid to try to outpace weak auras. And at the end of the day, weak auras eventually caught up, and it became a requirement to download the weak auras to do the raid. So this is a much better direction to go. Disarmament, rather than building up the nuclear arsenal constantly. Yeah, just disarm everything. Go back to the basics. Allow the game to be played in a fun way that doesn't require weak auras, and the boss fights will make sense and be more diverse, because then you can actually make good boss fights that you don't worry about weak auras eliminating mechanics for. There were about 3 to 4 bosses in that raid that could have been the end boss. Exactly, yeah. Well, there was also a combination raid. Anduin was technically supposed to be an end boss. There's a whole story behind that. But that raid was crazy hard. That's the whole point behind that.
And AoE Vomit is the only way they can reliably kill us. And obviously, killing us is the goal, but everybody knows that that's not a fun way to be killed by a game designer.
Right.
And this is now hitting a breaking point in World of Warcraft. So they want to make more interesting raids that we will find more fun. And that means they're starting the long process of replacing weak auras. Now, you may expect some pushback from Dratnos or Max, but the truth is, everyone is tired of it, not just Blizzard. Raiders and Mythic Plus players don't want to spend hours downloading and configuring add-ons and weak auras, but they feel that they have to because the game has been getting harder and harder. WoW is mechanically complex. And if we look at the success of this Mythic Plus season compared to all the others, it's obvious that it's because Blizzard toned down tons and tons of nonsense in the game.
Right.
Affixes are mostly gone, mob packs cast less, important casts are more visible to people, everything basically that means you don't need 7 add-ons screaming at you.
Yeah.
You can basically just...
I've watched people play like really high-end keys on Twitch, and their screen looks freaking stupid. I don't even know what they're looking at. Like literally, they probably have maybe a 4x4 square of where they can actually see the game. And then the rest of it is these massive pop-ups that are all over the place, and the sound from the game is all gone. All you're hearing is like dinging and move now and popping and okay, record this, all this shit, and then you got fucking an ad for something popping up telling you to buy more condoms because you're fucking your life away. I don't know what it is, but there's a ton of shit everywhere. It doesn't even look like WoW anymore. People are just playing this game behind weak auras. They're playing World of Weak Auras. So I think this would be a great thing. And yes, this season's much less complicated than previous seasons, which means you need less weak auras. So that by itself, that's a design fix on Blizzard's part. That's good. But weak auras still exist. So eventually you're going to have to work in some other shit to get rid of weak auras and other add-ons.
Use your eyes and see what's going on. And that's actually been our experience clearing Heroic this tier. We did not mandate that our raid team use a weak auras pack, and we didn't handle assignments automatically with deadly boss mods. The actual strategies were simple enough that we could just do all of that ourselves. It was fun. Plus, the bosses like having obvious visual and audio cues for all of their important attacks meant that even the timers themselves are starting to become unnecessary.
It's very true. Look, people are complaining saying, oh, Blizzard just needs to make the game better rather than eliminating weak auras. But eliminating weak auras is going to force Blizzard to make the game better. That's the whole thing. Is like if Blizzard knows that there's not going to be a weak aura telling people where to go or what to avoid, Blizzard needs to put that into the boss fight. And they've been doing that. This most recent raid, he's correct, Bellio, when he says like visually we could see a lot of stuff. It makes a lot of sense. Intuitively, you know what's going on in the fight just by looking at your screen. You don't need weak auras really to tell you. So that's great. And Blizzard really does keep pushing in this direction where weak auras are getting pushed out of the game. It's going to force them to make things more visually intuitive, right? If it's not, people will complain and Blizzard will fix it because there isn't a weak aura to back-end fix it. Whereas right now, if something's not visually intuitive, nobody goes to Blizzard and complains. They just go to download the weak aura to fix it. So yes, this is going to force the game to be better.
And going off script here and speaking personally, I actually did this entire raid tier without DBM. Well, not the entire raid tier. I think there were a few bosses towards the end, but basically, I turned DBM off to see what it was like, and I was actually...
The only weak aura I have for this raid is the one that calls out lightning bomb or whatever for the one-armed bandit. That's the only weak aura I have. The rest is just fucking... I just wing it.
Pleasantly surprised. Anyway, it's no coincidence that for our team, this has been one of the most fun tiers in a long, long time. Because it basically turns out simple is better in 100%. So many cases. Complexity for the sake of complexity is, well, just a bad signal to noise ratio. And this is Blizzard's public commitment to making sure that WoW is more simple, with less hoops to jump through, less pain points, and more fun for everyone. I really do like that. Ian talked about the difference between complexity and difficulty.
4 minutes, no, you can't.
Yeah, sometimes something is overly complex, it's a bit silly and arcane, and it ends up not really being fun. But if you look at some of the best games out there, even that have hardcore gameplay like Elden Ring, there is a tremendous simplicity to the core gameplay loop. There's another side to this as well. It's one you've probably thought of. With official versions of the necessary add-ons and a one-button mode, yeah, World of Warcraft is getting a lot closer to being ready for a console release. I think that's a long, long way into the future because, well, as much as all of this is good, I can't just sit here and pretend.
Yeah, this is I've seen worse. I've seen way worse than this, but yeah, this is what a lot of people's UI screens look like. Like, what is going on here? There's like 10 different versions of the health bars. You got this bar going up, this bar going down, this bar penetrating this bar. God knows what's happening here. What is this? Ready? He's got 3 different damage meters here in the corner. I don't even know what's happening. I really don't. I don't even know look at these percentages. What the fuck is this? Is Facebook integration or something? Yeah, just a ton of shit. And this is actually not that bad. I've seen stuff where like there's a massive pop-ups that literally cover your entire screen. But yeah, WoW looking like that is not a good thing.
And that everything's going to go to plan. Time for a dose.
Also, how the hell is somebody supposed to go say they go on Twitch and like, this World of Warcraft game, let me check it out, and they see that. They're not gonna play the game. They're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? There's nothing visually intuitive about this. I don't know what the hell is going on. Whereas like people who watch somebody play classic WoW with no add-ons, they're like, yeah, it makes sense. This makes sense. That's why that's typically a better game for people to join rather than retail.
The cooldown manager shipped in 11.1.5, and for tons of specs, the promises of fixes that were made in the PTR forums kinda just never happened. That's really bad. Ian said the rotation assist will be kept up to date with theory crafting and talents, and it feels impossible to trust that right now. Okay? It kind of does to me. Now, it's actually on the PTR already, and while it does seem to work quite well, across our testing there have been some massive issues right away. On Feral Druid, it didn't use Berserk, Incarnation, or Convoke whatsoever. Now, it was decent on the spec otherwise, but it never popped major cooldowns. It's a bit weird. That could kind of make it unusable. Now, for Demon Hunter, it never popped the Hunt or Vengeful Retreat to activate the Inertia damage buff, which does make it totally unusable. That said, if you had a movement build and a one-button gameplay thing, I could see that leading to a lot of accidental deaths. Anyway, those are issues. Now, all of these are easy fixes.
Issues that can be fixed, for one, but also this one-button click it's not supposed to be as good as a regular player playing the game the right way.
Fixes, I think. But this is Blizzard Entertainment that we're talking about here, and I can't forget the cooldown manager. They're pushing out patches so fast that nearly every single patch comes out basically unplayable. I've had to make a Blizzard, please take quality seriously video for like every minor patch, I think, so far, which is ridiculous. I don't want to be doing that. Now, this is all an amazing idea in paper, but it's hard to imagine that they'll be able to keep this tool as perfect as they would want, given the track record that we've seen. Of course, the same will go for all of their add-on replacements. Can they really support a tool that's as amazing as Details?
The thing is, the more important the add-ons are that they replace become, the more that they have to get it right. Because if they really stop add-ons from being used in the game, and then they add something into the game and it breaks and doesn't work, the game becomes somewhat unplayable until they fix it. Right? Like we had the cooldown manager that just became a thing, and like for a week, cooldown manager was like it went away. You could not enable it because it was breaking everything, so Blizzard pulled it back and said, we need one more week to kind of work on this, fix the bugs, and then we'll put it back in. They can't do that if they eliminate the add-on completely. The reason why it wasn't an issue was because you could still use the cooldown, you could still use the add-on while they were fixing cooldown manager. But say they add DPS meters into the game, and they stop DPS meters as an add-on from being able to be used, and then DPS meters go down for a week, people are not going to play. For an entire week, I can't play this game without a DPS meter. Like, it's not that it's not playable, they're just not going to want to play it. Or even worse, if you get rid of like some kind of boss mechanics like DBM related shit, people are just not going to raid that week. So they're going to have to get it right if they eliminate add-ons. If they keep add-ons alive while they're doing this, that might be the best direction to go in, just in case they break shit. You keep the add-ons running in the background until they officially get it right. But you're going to have to get it right. It's very important that they don't break the game as they add these things in, kind of like they did with just the cooldown manager.
I struggle to imagine, I suppose, a world where official Blizzard damage meters will let me post in party chat how many interrupts were used, or any of the other detailed things that we can check out in Details. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see, but to be honest with you right now, I have faith in Blizzard's very large strategy of what they want to accomplish, right? But what I don't have faith in is their ability to execute on the week-by-week basis.
That's kind of what I was just talking about.
Now, there have been good spots, like, say, Season 2 Mythic Plus. But I have to say, patch 11.1.5 did shake me a little bit.
Yeah, it was
in
bad.
The bad quality of its delivery. They need to figure out how to make all of these grand promises a reality.
They need to use PTR more. I don't know why the patch launched in such a bad state. Maybe it just did not get tested enough by enough people on PTR, but it was unplayable. It was unplayable. And like I said, if a core add-on to the game gets replaced by something and that doesn't work, yeah, it's going to create issues with people being able to play the game.
And not just tick off a box and then say they've done it, but to actually make it happen, make it work, make it robust. That is obviously not the only issue that's going on here. There are other ones, like learning as an example. Ian talks about the rotation assist as if it's a learning
I did not
tool,
pre-watch it.
but I actually think that could fail. I think people who want to learn the rotation manually will just go and learn it, right, as they do today. And people who don't will probably just use the tool instead. I don't really think there are any shortcuts to being interested in mastery in a video game. You know, mastery, the like human thing, not the stat inside WoW. And by offering this shortcut, we maybe will end up with fewer players exploring the game's depth and then falling in love with it. A counter-argument could be that this would open up the game to so many more people that, well, there's so many more people who could potentially fall in love with it and become interested, and then become players who care deeply about skill expression and mastery. But I suppose if you remove the obstacle to climb, people will never find out that they really enjoy climbing obstacles. But look, if that's the price to pay to let millions of other players actually get into and enjoy the game, well, that's Ian's call to make as game director. I wish him the best in that, and overall, I'm very supportive of what Blizzard wants to do here.
Yeah.
Replacing those kind of core add-ons that you feel like you need, that could be huge. Even if it's not huge for us existing players, it will be massive for the perception of World of Warcraft, and that will be important for the game's future.
Right.
Let me know how things are for you. And if all this has you wanting to roll a few more alts, check out our video on the Winds of Mysterious Fortune and all the different ways that you can make the best of it.
I mean, I kind of disagree with this final point there about, you know, people not exploring the depths of the game if Hecale is integrated into the game. I still think at the end of the day, to really get good at your class at the highest end, it's going to take muscle memory. So maybe Hecale kind of teaches some of your rotation to you, but you're going to need to learn it at a high level to really be hyper efficient. Because if you're just looking down at the bar constantly to see which abilities, or you move the bar up to the middle, or whatever it is, you're looking away from what's going on in the game for a split second, and that could cause you to die, for one. It also creates less efficiency if you have to be told what to click rather than knowing what to click already. So at the end of the day, there's still going to be something to be said for somebody who masters their class completely, because they're still going to do better in the game than somebody who's just following a guided add-on. But again, the main point is 56 million people already downloaded Hecale. Okay? People are using it already, so why not integrate it into the game, create smoother gameplay, create a game that needs less add-ons and is more ready to play out of the box for new players as well. Nice video here from Bellular.